And pay penny for our mencha, many or more Edin Comosenia, whom I CBG4 our Hanami said they were here to celebrate with us World Radio Day. No, and I pay Ace broadcaster, our mencha, many no Edin Como. Your be menu as you saw a seasoned journalist, or my way say more radio experience. You know, he's had it in the print media space, and you know, he's there, and virtually everything to do with current affairs and politics. He's been a part of it. And I pay who said, have we done enough as journalists in this country, especially radio broadcasters, in attempting to keep the peace in our nation? With all that's happening in Boko, the reportage and the headlines are the Emma stories, you know, does it in any way help control otherwise normal a bit me asuja or yamai we see emu. And I pay Mr. Tommy Annan-Forson Elman, Chairman in Edin Kubase. It's good to have you in the studio.
Nice to have you. Thank you.
I'm hoping that
coming
from you,
my
head is my head is going to bust this morning. But it's good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. And I pay more cover.
Yeah.
Let's say.
And your friend say, and a special day.
Yes.
Because to have Almighty Tommy Annan-Forson.
Yes.
To share a platform with him.
Yes.
Hey, Charlie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. May God continue to bless you. You've done so well for Ghana, for us. We've always looked up to you. You've been a major inspiration to so many of us. And may God continue to give you good health and protect you.
Amen.
And strengthen you to continue to share your experience with us.
Amen. Thank you. I'm humbled.
Sir, let me ask this question. For you, what is radio to you?
Well, you know, radio is a tool of communication, basically. I mean, around the world. Radio is something that we all listen to, we all love. Radio is something that impacts on, you know, human lives as a nation, individually, collectively. Radio is the biggest tool, if I should say that, around the world. People get inspiration from radio. People get all kinds of emotions from radio. So radio is a very powerful, in fact, I think radio is the most powerful medium you can think of when it comes to disseminating information. So that for me is radio. That is a huge tool, and we need to use it properly.
You know, for a split second, I was listening to the voice that I used to listen to.
My goodness.
On radio. For a split second, you know, I was out of here, and I'm listening to this voice on the radio, and the charm when you're listening to this voice, and the appreciation of the issues when this voice is on radio, and giving you good music, giving you information, and here we are sitting with Tommy Annan-Forson.
My goodness.
The great.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
We looked up to you growing up. We admired you. You were the standard, and you are the standard. But as to whether that standard is what it ought to be now, we'll get to that point. Yeah. But radio is to entertain, is to inform, and is to educate. You summarize it all. But sitting back and watching the kind of radio you did and the kind of radio we are doing today, are you happy?
I must confess that I am not too happy. There's a vast difference when it comes to professionalism, dealing with certain issues as far as tribalism is concerned, politics, home affairs, and stuff like that. There's a huge difference in that for me, as a broadcaster of 42 years, I think the trend has gone down tremendously, and it's something that it saddens me, you know, when I hear people, if I, for want of a better word, misbehave on the air, talking about issues that they are not abreast of, talking about issues that can incite, can affect you as an individual or as a collective, you know, body, as a nation. So I think that, yes, radio has really gone down, and it's a very sad thing to listen to when you hear people dealing with certain issues as a joke. You know, for instance, you get children who are being raped, you know, mistreated by parents and stuff like that, and some of them tend to joke with some of these serious issues, and I cringe and crunch when I hear some of these issues, and Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but a lot of presenters are giving people more high blood pressure than anything else, and, and I think it's a sad affair.
Where would you place the problem? Where this decline started from? Where would you place it?
I think it's a 2 or 3-fold problem in that, if I should say this, I don't know whether my big brother here will agree with me, but the issue of professionalism comes in. How does professionalism come in? Under any job that you are going to do, be it a cleaner, be it a driver, be it a pilot, be it an engineer, be it a broadcaster, you must have a certain knowledge about what you're going to do, in that it requires training. Unfortunately, I think a lot of owners of radio and TV stations have put aside the issue of training. Maybe just a few people, have had that opportunity. I've trained quite a number of people in the then Rabodef who are exhibiting that kind of professionalism. Hitherto, you might deviate, once or twice, but then if you do not invest in how to do it, radio and television is something that you must want to do and not have to do. There's a difference in that you must be very dedicated, passionate about it. And so the issue of training is the major factor. And unfortunately, owners of TV and radio stations do not want to invest in training because they think that it's a waste of time. If you're able to say A, B, C, D, and what is saying, alo toyo ten, that kind of thing, it means that you have access to the microphone and therefore you can say anything or do anything, which hitherto is not the best of issues.
The issue of training and the fact that owners of radio takes me to institutions that are supposed to train people for that noble profession of journalism or broadcasting in the country. Because I can count the number of very credible training institutions in this country, apart from GIJ and Rabodef then. I remember back then with Sunny FM, you had a training for us, and I have your certificate with me in the house. Are there institutions to prepare people for that noble profession as we speak?
I'm glad you've mentioned the word noble profession. Yes, it is a very noble and respectable profession. Unfortunately, it's not everybody who respects that or has that opinion, as I say. But then again, if you look at certain institutions, you ask yourself, I mean, there are so many media schools all over the place. But then, what is the qualification, if I should ask, to be able to train people to do the right thing? I must say that most of the trainers, unfortunately, do not have the requisite skill, when it comes to having to train people. For them, I think most of them is the issue of getting money, from people. Because I've heard so many or seen so many students who have come from various institutions who left and came to Rabodef, because I really insist on being very strict when it comes to my policy of training. I mean, you either do it or you get out, So unfortunately, a lot of trainers don't even go through a trainer of trainers program, where you are trained to train people, in terms of pronunciation, in terms of diction, in terms of analyzing certain issues. Some of them are really biased when it comes to issues of both radio and television. So a lot of media schools, unfortunately, are at fault for not being able to get the right people to train. Okay, so that is a huge issue, and I am hoping that someday it will change.
Now, there's the question of ownership as well, and the proliferation of radio, TV, and all. And people say that we are getting these low standards because of the kind of ownership system or ownership structure we have in this country, where, especially in my space, current affairs, where virtually all radio stations are owned or managed by some political figures in the country. And so, because it affects the opposition, everything is allowed. Because it affects the government in power, every and anything is allowed. Is that tenable?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, whether you own a radio station or not, as an individual, if you're not ready to equip yourself with knowledge as far as the fraternity is concerned, then you have a problem. Yes, we all have our political affiliations. We all have our parties that we support. Unfortunately, I'm not, should I say, when it comes to being on air, either radio or television, a political person. Okay, I would rather keep my political affiliations to myself.
Yeah.
Because there's always a tendency of, you know, if you support this political party or you support this, you're either blacklisted or you're favored in terms of that. You know, so it's a huge issue. Unfortunately, some owners of radio stations or TV stations who are politicians tend to use that as a tool to manipulate those who are on the air. Radio and television is neutral. It's just like commentary. Excuse me. I'll give an example of maybe football commentary. There are times when you're listening to a commentator on air and you're able to tell which football team he or she supports, you know, in terms of enthusiasm when it comes to maybe scoring a goal or something. But if you watch the Premier League, it's very difficult for you to tell which side the commentator belongs to, in that the same kind of enthusiasm he might show for maybe Manchester United is the same kind of enthusiasm he will show Leeds United if they were both to score goals. So we have that problem of people owning the radio station to use as a tool, you know, to manipulate the presenters. I dare not say that, you know, some presenters receive huge sums of money from politicians. That I do not have proof of. But of course, that is an allegation. To some extent, they might say there's no smoke without fire. You know, so these are areas that we need to look at. And again, I'm saying that one day I hope it'll change, because if you're just looking at putting up a radio station to use as a tool to manipulate people, then your manipulative tendencies are much higher, because it's like owning a gun. You either pull the trigger or you put the gun somewhere else. And these are issues that need to, you know, certain mechanisms need to be put in place, perhaps by either outgoing governments or incoming governments. It's neither here nor there, but it's an issue of, let's make sure that radio and television can have a balanced reportage, balanced analysis, balanced programming, you know, every area of program, and remain as neutral as possible. And I think we'll go a long way.
Yeah, I'll come to you shortly. My final question. And we'll come to the bit about radio for maintaining the peace and security. But does language matter?
Absolutely.
In respect of the case about the declining, you know, journalistic standards, that the point you made about, a young girl gets raped, or, you know, it's being used for child labor, and then how it is being described in the local language. And the seriousness of the issue, as you were raising earlier on, has language diluted?
Absolutely. I believe what you're saying in terms of the question that you asked. Because look, you can tell a joke to somebody. I mean, let me use an example. You know, with all due respect, I say, Masa, you fool pao. You know, you look at it as a jovial kind of gesture, a mere joke. But if I come out using the same sentence saying that you are a fool, you know, it tends to create a difference in terms of the way it is disseminated to you. And so, yes, language plays a very important role. Unfortunately, you see, people do not realize the traumatic situations that children go through when they are handled that way. These are things that can affect a child for the rest of his life or her life. And so the language you're using counts a lot to be able to heal that situation when it comes to trauma. Okay, so if you crack a joke or you describe it in such a way that it is offensive, you know, now people listen to radio a lot. Like I said, it's the biggest tool. Social media also plays a role, you know. And so if you are not able to control yourself when it comes to the issue of language and diluting news stories that are serious, you know, then we have a problem. So I think that language has a major role to play, how we handle, how we comport ourselves on the air, the kind of jokes that we crack when it comes to serious issues, and it leaves much to be desired.
Yeah, World Radio Day, when it's all the senior. Yeah.
I beg you. I'm a grandchild.
Yeah, I have always insisted that standards not falling, but if you
I don't know whether, I always say this thing to myself, but I think the invasion of the sector by political persons is a major factor.
That's for those of us in the current affairs space. But you know, the entertainment too, they are there. Yeah. And then the music people too, they are there.
But we say a lot of attention is paid to your friend is saying
current affairs.
Current affairs, because that is where opinion and all manner of things are shaped. Indeed, how many people really cares about your friend is saying entertainment on Peace FM, Joy FM,
yeah, and you won't see me
anyway, see those things really won't trigger any form of confrontation among the populace.
Okay, but it depends on how.
It depends. Yeah,
of course, that is true. Yeah. But again, discuss an issue which has to do with NDC, MPP, the way and manner you go about it.
Yeah,
it can trigger all manner of situations, and so standard, like Tommy said, is a major factor. The professionalism, really, sometimes yes, you will listen to radio, and then you ask yourself, say, hey, Charlie, you're a quite day in empire. Because you see, Sammy, in the times of Uncle Tommy and others, radio was okay. There were certain, you need to, certain measures were there. Yeah. Code of ethics and all those things were being adhered to. Yeah. But in their time after 2000, 2008, 2010, sometimes you simply don't want to listen to it at all. Because people say, "Nah, say nipa na all kind news, no, na nipa na all report no, really." Asema kan what you say. Language na say kasa na all kan asema all kan fa ebia tribe bi ho no what you say only the implications. Because sometimes asem bi ho at our level as ebia ye di agro no, ubetimi aka asem bia, and it's cool. Nothing happens. I mean, it's cool. But you cannot make the same mistake. Share the late Bismarck Bebley.
Yeah.
May he so rest in peace. But Madame for pa na onu humia sebia yakoba baby na me kokoto na o say obunu ni we de baby away late.
Yeah.
But between me and no okay. So there was a time I no ha no so buy. So I be ni we de. That day was the biggest regret in my life because between me and no Kasa you can't agro, but somebody there took offense because Sophie said an insult. This was not radio. Assuming say you can't say we radio so. Yeah. So the implications and the sad thing is that the owners, most of whom are political persons, really don't care about it. For them, it's about your station being at the center of controversy. Oh, Happy FM, what is saying for Yakoko, and I say NDC for the MPP for Aquakushiaho. In their mind, it enhances the profile of the station. Forgetting, say, Sebi, saying, no, and damn, the peace and the stability of the country. They don't really care about it for some of them or any business, so long as it will generate something for them. And maybe the advertising industry too will feel that, oh, okay, Happy FM is gaining a lot of attention because of sometimes maybe a name emphata, but hey, for so long as people are listening, they go and advertise there. So these are some of the challenges that we have had. But say at radio Asia, I was in Rwanda, and apart from your friends and those things that were behind the your friends say genocide, radio was a major factor. Because somebody had the opportunity to sit on radio to describe another group as cockroaches and that killed the cockroaches. So all of these things, so we ask ourselves, a professional person no matter the provocation, will not sit on radio and make irrational, irresponsible comment that has the potential to undermine the state. So we have a long way to go. Indeed, you ask yourself, how can we address it? Who will have to deal with it? Media Commission, how powerful are they to address some of these things? Ghana Journalists Association, are they there to deal with it? Prank Park, are they there to deal with it? So the institutions charged to more or less guide us. I mean, there have been instances where Media Commission will try to mediate a crisis involving maybe a journalist, a businessman, whatever. Or can we, the way a manner even the media even treat Media Commission itself. So you wonder, where are we going? We have a long way to go. Indeed, the only fortunate thing is that so far, yeah, there have been some instances where radio has been used to, as it were, cause some confusion. But so long as it has not gotten to the level of Rwanda, we will continue to say we are doing well, but we should not take things for granted.
I'm so glad you mentioned the Rwandan genocide, in that it was just one presenter, one person, who, you know, for want of a better word, cracked a joke, you know, kill the cockroaches or cut down the tall trees. Now, if one man can create a genocide, what about a whole bunch of radio stations who come out issuing statements like that, or to incite violence? I mean, I will not compare myself to our culture in terms of radio to, you know, maybe America or London or wherever it is. But if you make certain derogatory statements against anybody, you realize that sponsors pull out, rather than go in because of controversy that sparks interest in radio and television. They pull out. That means that you are losing a lot of revenue. Your station is downgraded, and if you are not careful, your station will be shut down. Again, him mentioning that, oh, Akwede or Aibeni. You see, my brother, it's not everybody who has got a sense of humor. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody might say that, oh, Mofanti for there, we are concert for. You know, somebody might take it lightly. Somebody might not understand the context to which that statement is made, and therefore can offend somebody. I'm a fanti. I'm a very jovial. I crack a lot of jokes. I know my boundaries. I know my parameters. I know which toes not to step on. Okay? So you don't go on radio and television and describe ibase or gas in the terms of trying to create a joke. Some jokes are very, very expensive and very, very sensitive. And so, again, like you rightly said, the Ghana Journalists Association will come out and defend someone who belongs to the association. That means that there's a possibility that if I said something wrong and perhaps I was attacked or beaten up, you know, or injured or something, I'm wondering and asking myself, because I do not belong to the Ghana Journalists Association, will they come to my defense? You understand what I'm saying? So some people being a party to that or belonging to that association can decide, well, I know they will defend me, they will be all up in arms, and therefore I have the right to say what I want. But that's not the case. You are looking at a country that belongs to all of us. And I think to a large extent, I don't know whether you'll agree, but I think to a large extent, we are taking the peace that we enjoy for granted.
Absolutely.
And you do not know what you have until you've lost it. And when you lose it, you realize that, wow, this was valuable. You understand me?
Interesting. But there's a very important element in this whole conversation, because radio is a two-way street. You are sitting in the studio with a microphone and there's an audience. They have a certain expectation of you, especially the modern day consumer of radio content. Now, if we should check our Facebook page now, as a big man like Mr. Forson is here with us, you check the numbers. Maybe some 50, 100 people. Because Yaobi Menu is a decent guy. Samir Shen is a decent guy. Mr. Annan-Forson is a decent guy. But go on another platform where this morning insults are being spewed. On another platform where the person All he's saying, for want of a better word, is chaff. And they are in the thousands watching. Is it not a matter of the taste of our viewers and of our listeners, our consumers, that is also driving where radio and TV is going today?
That's a very good question, and I've always loved questions like that. You see, radio and television owners say that let's give the people what they want, understandably, okay? But if you're giving them chaff, like the word you used, you see, it tends to kind of like, I think that the audience or the listener is controlling what we own. And therefore, if you say you like explicit content, then your radio or TV station is the best. I'll give you a typical example. Some years ago, I'm sure the story, it was a huge story when one friend of mine, Beku, and I went to the Media Commission with pornographic material. I mean, explicit sexual material. And at the time, it was Gold, Gold TV. And after 10, they would show these explicit pornographic material. And I said, no, this cannot happen, you know. And you come out and describe what it is, and people think that you're just exaggerating. So fortunately, I was able to record the times, the station, and take it to the Media Commission. And thank God, that station was almost closed down and the content was removed. I mean, children of today hardly go to bed at what, 8 o'clock, like our time where it says 8 o'clock, time for bed, go to bed, you know, that kind of thing. Now every child has an iPhone 13, they have a DSTV in their bedrooms, you know. Some of them being spoiled by their parents because they say that, oh, I do not want my child to go through what I went. But then educational purposes, where is it going? And so it's a very, very wide area we need to look at when it comes to the Media Commission, the NCA, the Ghana Journalists Association, and even the Private Broadcasters Association. These are things that we need to look at. But unfortunately, it's like, oh, you know, and so what? What happens? So you're also laid back. I mean, in my time, I was very, very strict. You know, today you hardly get somebody doing a playlist.
Yeah.
They just go on air, play the song, you know, be it whether it's trash or not, they just play any kind of music, okay? If you ask some modern day presenter today, who is Perry Como, who is Sir Elton John, or they don't do any research, they just go play the modern stuff that we are hearing today, which to me, a lot doesn't make sense. But then they say that's what the people want. So it's the people who tend to control our radio stations rather than control the policies that we have. And that's a problem.
Yeah, my main rem. The military issue, of course, so whether it's chieftaincy, whether it's people's parochial interest that is at play there, what can radio do at this moment to curb the situation spiraling out of control?
We haven't taken interest in Boko, especially with the recent situation.
Yeah.
And that is probably because of maybe about the fact that, look, this is a normal situation which keep reoccurring. Of course, underlying it is a chieftaincy issue, which is the main cause of confusion in Boko itself. I remember Mr. Rawlings, Mr. Kufuor, President Mills, President Mahama, and now in the times of Akufo-Addo. Over the past, but since 1992, this has always been an issue of Boko. Always. You deploy the military there, they will go, unfortunately, they will misbehave, because for them, unfortunately, they have no time for nonsense, because for them, they have to make sure there's peace, they have to make sure there's calm, and that the state can say that everything is okay. So sometimes, yes, they also misbehave in terms of trying to ensure that everything is calm. Radio over the past 2 or 3 weeks since this thing came up, really you only see one radio station or maybe 2 radio stations once in a while reporting about the incidents, the activities of the military and all those things. So paying greater attention has not been the case. And if you are going to have a situation where we all can say that, look, things ought to be done right, I'm sure we are going to get things. If you remember, for instance, there was a time that water bodies in Ghana was a major concern. And so if you recollect, Kanashigbe, Occupy Ghana, and few others says, no, enough is enough, and that we need to stand up. And so when we all started talking, government started also behaving, and we got some form of results. Unfortunately, it didn't go far. And so we need to pay attention to Boko, because take it or you leave it. Out of that situation it can be the sport, because one, look at Boko and Burkina, too close, and we know what is happening in Burkina now. So it's easy for the jihadists to enter Boko and pretend to be on the side of
one.
Exactly, and then try to do something which we all don't want to see. So we need to work hard. We haven't done enough in terms of paying attention and drawing attention of those who matter. Of course, government, they've deployed about 500 military there, but it's not enough. We cannot allow Boko to destroy. And all those who matter, and this will also mean, as media practitioners, as radio people and stuff, going into it to understand the situation. Though yes, we know it is pure chieftaincy issue. And I ask a question. We all remember Dagbon. Some way, somehow, President Akufo-Addo was able to deal with it. So I ask a question. Can't the same be done in Boko? Or because it is just somebody's project? And whose interest? Because in the end, let me say something like that. We are, as a nation, and maybe as media practitioners, we take the peace we have for granted until it happens. And so sometimes you will listen to some of our colleagues on radio, the way they talk, and even when they are even picking on personalities, the way they will even insult them, thinking that because we have a media freedom, that person cannot go to court. So that lack of respect on our part as media practitioners, we need to look at it. For instance, as a media person, if you attack right now in Ghana, it is easy for them to say MPP for Nayamaya Babebo. It's easy. And then once you mention MPP, you are likely to get the support of NDC. NDC in government, anything happens to a journalist, you will hear MPP saying the NDC orchestrated it. And then you are likely to get MPP supporting that activity, which is not right. And so, of course, the political parties are always until they look, let's support the panel against the party that is in government, so that we will get some form of support. But are you wrong? Are you wrong? I'm a journalist. I've written a story about somebody. If the story is wrong, it's wrong. If the person and is he something, and you'll be a friend and say, I want a rejoinder, straight away to court. And then you go and justify your publication there. And if you have a judge, this paper, Rafa Siama, he had an issue. Alfred Ubami also had an issue. And where are their newspapers? So we need to think, and we need to begin to go back to exactly.
But unfortunately, but how is that reset button going to be pressed when a very important point you made that has to do with the business element? As I sit here, if the salespeople are to go out there to go and market this show, the advertising agency is going to ask, "What are your numbers on social media?"
But on the basis of what we are discussing now, you will get zero.
Yes.
Because it doesn't make sense. And that comes back to the issue of presenters, like Uncle Tommy said earlier. What's the program? What do we have? What do we want to offer? If you want to, for instance, know the state of radio in Ghana, just open the phone line. And then look at, just pay attention to the coordination between the presenter and the person calling into the show. Your friend say, so the presenter is not even setting the agenda. So the presenter should be able to say, look, we are discussing domain market, the state of domain market. How much information do you have? What do you know? What's your contribution? So you limit the person to domain market. But you don't allow the person says, "Me tiama saman." When the person, "Me tiama saman," and the other masaman has a pipe. I say, when we are not discussing pipe issues, so we should begin to direct the conversation as well. But so long as we will allow the callers to determine, or flower chair, me chair, Japan, me chair, Afoko, me chair, then you ask yourself. So
yeah, maybe I want to and the haunting. Maybe I want to and the
no,
haunting.
I mean, because you see, it is because you see, you listen to BBC, you Al Jazeera, and those that there's a standard. And why is it that people are paying attention? Because whether you like it or not, Uncle Tommy will listen to Happy FM if your friends say there's a certain direction. Say, look, we are discussing sanitation in Accra, and the callers are making meaningful contribution to sanitation issues, and that is being spearheaded by the presenter. But if the host is it has no bearing on the subject on the table, and then but we will still allow that person. But until we begin to adopt the attitude of no, look, because the person calling, he has his own interest and agenda. He's not interested in the subject matter, but maybe Happy FM wants the state or the Accra Metropolitan Assembly to pay attention to sanitation, and that is why sanitation is an issue. And then who also do we bring to the studio to come and discuss the subjects?
You know, I remember, Sammy, there was a time when I activated the phones. I think it was on Choice FM at the time. And there was a very sensitive issue we were talking about. And somebody activated the phones and somebody came on and deviated completely from the subject. And I said, please, this is what we are discussing. So if you could toe that line, you know, and went on and I said, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take you off the air. I was very polite about it and I cut the line. And then another caller came and said, oh, why did you cut the person off? Why didn't you allow him to voice his opinion? And I said, oh, he did not, you know, go according to what we were talking about, you know, but no, you have to allow him. So I cut him off. Okay, that was two. The third one came and said, why do I keep cutting people off? And I cut him off, you know. But then it's not an issue of disrespect. It's an issue of policy.
Exactly.
It's an issue of policy. A lot of presenters don't have control over whatever they are doing. No. Okay? Yeah. I mean, look at the way you're mediating this program. I'm sure if you activated the phones, a lot of the spotlight might be on me as a broadcaster. That's not what I'm looking for. We're looking for how to solve the problem. XYZ, I initiated peace messages before one of the general elections. It was drummed before and in the middle on after every program, 3 times per program. It worked beautifully. There's so much interconnectivity between radio and TV stations. I'm sure you're broadcasting in a couple of other regions.
Yeah.
So what stops us, maybe Happy FM or ETV, from inviting presenters, okay, maybe not World Peace Day, but maybe Ghana Peace Day. Invite a lot of presenters, talk about peace messages, because the conflict in Boko, okay, is not as a result of them just wanting to fight. But there's an issue, like you said, there's a chieftaincy issue. How do we address the chieftaincy issue? Don't forget that one person dies and that's the end of it. He or she is never coming back. People will grieve. What are the radio stations there doing about it? They're going about their normal business, playing their music, looking for adverts to play. Okay? And now the issue of payola also comes in, where, you know, people are being pay as you play, and that kind of thing. So it's a huge issue, like my brother here said, and I think presenters or media owners, have a duty to play to bring peace. If you drum the issue of peace and let people know that, look, once you are shot or you are killed, some people are maimed for life. That's the end of it. Yeah. You might never be able to walk again. You know, that changes your life completely. But radio can help people avoid these kind of situations and live a normal life. Ask yourself, what is the war about? What is the fight about? At the end of the day, we are all going to go someday. Yeah. You know, you die today, there's jubilation. The next 30 minutes, you are forgotten about it. Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Yeah.
Let me quickly just jump to the phone lines and speak to Madam Felicia Ejapon. She's former head GBC Radio and Television School. Let's pick her thoughts on the business of broadcasting in this country. It's good to have you on the show this morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you? Greetings to my colleague, Tommy. Tommy, good morning.
How are you?
I'm hoping you're doing well today, ma'am.
I'm fine.
All right. So the business of broadcasting in this country and the drive towards the peace agenda, are we doing enough?
Let me start from somewhere. What is radio for? Radio is a companion. It has become a companion. And to quote one of my past broadcasters, it is an elite profession. It started in the 20th century. And what we know about radio is as a companion, we broadcast to the masses. Those who are working, those who are not working, the elite and also the illiterates, the young and the old. You know. And what is our aim? Our aim is to educate, inform, entertain, mobilize, inspire, motivate. All these things are the aims of radio. Let's talk about radio for now. As a companion, this is what we're supposed to do. Radio started as a public service station. Public service is for development. So it was only in the latter days, my colleague will tell you, that radio commercial service started in 1967. And then, even there, we had rules and regulations. On Sundays, we don't even advertise alcoholic drinks. Hard liquor is not advertised. There are rules, there are regulations, there are ethics. We have copyright laws. We have types of defamation, slander, like all these things are there to guide whoever qualifies to be an announcer. So when you are there, you are a peace builder. You are organizing, bringing people together, giving them hope through your programs, educating them. But what do we see now? The commercial station has now turned into anything, and nobody is trying to put them on track. Why do we even tell doctors that before you can operate on your own, you must have...
Welcome back to the Happy Morning Show. Let me apologize for that short break there. But for radio folks, I thank you for staying with us all that while. So we are talking about radio and peace. And so far, we've highlighted a lot of issues. And I pay you out. I mean, I can't meanwhile, I know say, you're senior by idea. You're
unfortunately, a revised standard version. One shot. Then you're wrong.
Anyway, Tommy, you didn't come to train baby here. We are wrapping up with the conversation. The listeners are listening, the viewers are watching, and then the young folks are also listening and watching. What would be your final words to them?
You know, we always use the term knowledge is power.
Yeah.
You do not know the amount of power you will when you are behind the microphone. You can make or break. Radio has brought people together in terms of marriages, so many, areas. At the same time, radio has also destroyed a lot of people. Look at the way radio and television sometimes are pitching musicians against musicians rather than bringing them together.
Yeah.
All in the name of controversy, You need to, for me, my first book is the Bible, my second book is the dictionary. I am still learning. It never ends until you kick the bucket.
Yeah.
And so you need to ask yourself, when you do the program, or when you finish this program, you do a postmortem on yourself. Ask yourself, did I do well? Where did I go wrong? Unfortunately, we don't like criticism in this country. We don't. Somebody criticizes you, oh, we are too low on Penasem, you know. But you need to access information. You need to be a first-rate version of yourself than be a second-rate version of somebody else. And once you're able to assimilate that saying and ask yourself questions, don't finish and say, oh, I've done a good show, that's the end of it. No. There's a step ahead. Take that step. Listen to advice. Listen to criticism. That's what made me who I am today.
Indeed. Yeah. Wrap-up comments.
Well, I'm saying a better production team Nasi for the honor and the privilege to bring Uncle Tom here and to share this platform with him. I mean, inspire he's been a major inspiration to so many people, and I will always say God continue to bless you.
Amen.
And give you the strength to keep on keeping on.
Amen.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap up here. Mass wedding tomorrow. It's happening live, and Sophia and Sabwaka Wabeka and said, but Uncle Tom, I'm grateful. You may not know it, but some of us, we are where we are, keeping certain journalistic principles because of people like you that you taught us. I'm sure you don't even recollect at the time when some refresher course had been organized for us, and it was Rabodev that taught us these principles. You're talking about how, you know, host interacts with the listeners and all of that. We learned them from you. And so we are super proud of you. And be proud of yourself, because there's so much that you have achieved in this space. And there are remnants of you in some of us who understand the tenets of the game. And so we are grateful
Thank you.
for what you've given us. Very grateful, sir.